Yo, what's poppin'? It's your boy Ashley, and today we are bringing you our IBL Season 4 draft analysis. Now, if you caught the stream yesterday, you already know, and probably heard me say a little bit about all of these different picks, because, you know, I'm a part of the stream. I'm not hosting or anything, but I'll be there dropping my knowledge. I mean, of course, if you were there, you already know all this. If you weren't there and you're watching this now, unfortunately, man, you have already missed it. So we're just going to hop right in and start talking about these mons. First of all, our first pick. Actually, you know what? You see my first pick already, but you're probably looking at the point totals and just being like, what is that? 200 points for Celesteela. Now, let me tell you what's going on here, guys. In this league, all of these Pokemon have their normal tiering numbers. Like, tier 1s are 180, tier 2s are 120. You know, all the stuff you typically expect all the way down to 40 for a tier 5. Now, the different thing about this draft is that Z-Mons cost 20 points, and you can have as many as you like. And you can pick anywhere from 8 to 11 mons. So if you want to pick just 8 really strong higher tier mons and have one Z user, you can do that. If you want to pick a ton of tier 4s and tier 5s and have 9 Z users, well, you can do that too. Pretty much however you want to do it, you can do it that way, which is a really cool aspect of this draft. And if you've seen the draft stream, or if you're watching other draft analysis from the league, you'll see that there's a very large, diverse array of team builders in this league, and they've all built sort of different crazy teams. So we are going to talk about mine. I'm very, very excited to be bringing this team, and it's got a lot of mons that I haven't used before that I'm excited to use, as well as some mons that I have used and I already know I like. So as you can see here, we started off with Celesteela. This mon is lauded by most, maybe not most, but by a lot of people as the best mon in draft format. It has offensive capabilities as well as insane defensive capabilities. It gives us our steel for our Fairy Dragon Steel, and it is pretty much one of, if not the best steals in the Draft League format. It's immune to Earthquake, a move that usually is the top 1 or 2 moves that claim kills in the Draft League format. It's got Leech Seed. It's a great Z user, which is why I'm very glad that we have made it our Z user. It's great coverage. I mean, if you play OU at all, you know pretty much anything you need to know about Celesteela. This mon is an absolute monster, and it is even more of a monster in the Draft League format, so I'm very, very excited to use it. Now, I wanted to pair this mon with another very, very strong Pokemon, and that Pokemon was Mega Gallade. So I've never used Mega Gallade before, but it is preached and praised by a lot of people as the best Mega in the Draft League format. So it's got great attacking capabilities, it's got great setup, it's got lots of priority moves, it's got a great offensive typing in Psychic and Fighting, it's got a good speed tier, it outspeeds a lot of the threats that you might see in the metagame. I'm very, very excited to be using this mon, especially because Celesteela covers pretty much all of its weaknesses. So I'm a huge fan of the synergy those two have offensively and defensively together, and I think that they're really going to force a lot of people to have to play fat against me, and mons like Mega Gallade can set up and start blowing through fatter teams. So I'm a huge fan of what we've got going for us so far. So next, I wanted to pick up another very well-rounded mon, a mon that would serve my team offensively and defensively. And I ended up going with Arcanine. So this is another Pokemon I've made my Z user. It gets good coverage to take advantage of its Z move. It also has capabilities to run defensive sets with Will-O-Wisp and Morning Sun. Intimidate is a fantastic ability, one of the best abilities in the Draft League format, in my opinion. And really, really excited. This is a mon I'm very comfortable with. I've had this mon in 2 separate leagues. So I could sit here all day and talk about Arcanine. I love this Pokemon. It can be run special or physical. Typically physical, but definitely can be run special. And just really, really serves a great role for my team, as well as giving me the beginnings of a Fire, Water, Grass. So we're going to move on to our next pickup, being Krookodile. So another Intimidate user, which is something I was very, very happy with. A Pokemon that is a good Scarfer, because we didn't have a good Scarfer on our team yet, and that's something I really like to pick up, especially one that has Moxie. Scarfers with Moxie are, in my opinion, very, very powerful in the Draft League format, because it's easy to snowball on your opponent with the right amount of chip and the right move set. So hopefully I can take advantage of that. This gives us an electric immunity, which is great paired with Celesteela. It gives me the ability to intimidate shuffle on mons that might be trying to set up, or just mons that can do a lot of damage to my team on the physical side. And it's just a mon that I've always wanted to use in the format. Krookodile is one of my favorite Gen 5 mons, so I'm very excited to see that it finally found its way onto one of my team, as well as being one of my Z users. Now, I did this because it has a great attacking capability, and even without a Scarf, if it's running the Z move, it can use that to get its Moxie boost and take out something else and possibly snowball from there on its own, depending on the speed of my opponent. So, as well as being able to run the Z Snatch set, a set that I'm a very, very big fan of, because with the Z Snatch up, that +2 speed boost is absolutely amazing. And if you could somehow manage to steal a Calm Mind or a Swords Dance or an Agility or something like that, it leaves your opponent wasting a turn as well as giving you the advantage as well. So I'm a huge fan of this pickup. Obviously, I think that Krookodile is a great mon, and I think it fits my team very well. So next up, I wanted to kind of start aiming to complete some of my cores, because as you can see, out of the two main ones, we really only have a steel and a fire. So I went with Slowking. This gives me a special wall, something my team doesn't really have, with 2 Intimidate Shufflers, giving their types as well. It kind of helps patch up my team on the physical side, but I don't really have anything to wall specially at this point, so Slowking seemed like a great pickup. Having a Regenerator mon on the team is always fantastic, and God, if I don't just love this Pokemon. It's pretty strong when it can be. It has the ability to set up nasty plots. It can be very offensive as well as Trick Room threat. It can slack off and serve as a great wall to your team. I'm just a huge fan of this Pokemon all around. A little disappointed that, the only thing that I would say that I dislike about Slowking is the fact that it is weak to Bug-type moves, and it's less bulky on the physical side, meaning that it's pretty susceptible to U-turners and things like that. Like Pokemon like Darmanitan can U-turn on this Pokemon pretty much without fear and stuff like that, and doing a pretty good bit of chip that we have to regenerate her off. You hear how it is. You know how it is. But I still think that at 100 points, this is a great wall for our team, and is shaping up to be a pretty good fire, water, grass core. So next up, a mon that I really am excited to have picked up, a mon that I've always wanted to pick up in Draft League format but never really pulled the trigger on. Picked up Goodra. It's another special defensive wall. We have 2 physical wall options, as well as, not wall options, but physical dampener options, as well as our 2 special walls. And Goodra is just such a thick Pokemon. I think it's the only pseudo-legendary who has a defensive stat that's higher than one of its attacking stats. If I remember correctly, that could be wrong, but I feel as if I heard that in a video. Gooey is a nice ability. I'm fairly certain that's the one that slows down their speed every time it's hit on the physical side, so that can be very advantageous as well for mons like Mega Gallade, Arcanine, and Krookodile to come in and lay down the damage. I'm a huge fan of this Pokemon. It's a great Assault Vest user. It gets a pretty good move pool, a very solid move pool, as well as Sap Sipper, so it makes a great pairing to Slowking as well, being able to switch in on those grass type attacks that Slowking and Krookodile really don't want to take. And all around, I think a very good Gloomon for this team. Not the most offensive dragon type out there, but definitely have offensive capabilities. But really a defensive star, which is something my team needs a little bit more of. It's got some balanced users, it's got some super offensive users and super specially defensive users, but you get what I'm saying. Goodra's the man, and I'm very excited to have finally gotten to pick it. So now at this point, we're going to start dipping into the lower tiers a little bit, because as you can see, we chose to use 3 Z-move users. I do not have any lower tier Z-move users, and we picked up our Mega, which in this league, Megas cost points depending on their tiers. So I spent 180 for Mega Gallade, and I think that's another thing that influenced, just to bounce back to that pick real quick, that's the one thing that influenced me to pick Mega Gallade, because if I'm going to be spending points on a Mega, I want the points to be worth it, and I couldn't risk getting sniped out on some of the lower tier Megas. I just decided that going with Mega Gallade, a mon that is definitely worth the 180 price tag, would be the smartest thing to do. But anyway, as I said, we were dipping down in the lower tiers, something that I love to have on every team is a strong electric type, so I went with the bug electric type Vikavolt. It's got levitate, meaning it's immune to ground type attacks, which is fantastic. We only really have Celesteela and Slowking as our ground type resist right now, and those aren't the best. Slowking really doesn't even like to take them that much, but it does have Regenerator, able to pivot, possibly scare something out as long as the Earthquake isn't doing too much damage. But I don't know, man. It's nice to have as many ground immunities as you can. I'm very scared of ground in the League format, and I think Vikavolt is a fantastic mon to take advantage of that kind of switch in. With HP Ice doing so much damage because of its monstrous 145 base special attack, and the fact that it's so slow that you typically find yourself able to run Modest because there's not that much you can outspeed on the opponent's team anyway, and this is a mon you'll be using more often than not to revenge or come in on a U-turn and lay down a huge hit. So it has Volt Switch as well, meaning that can also help me get a little bit of initiative. I don't have any mons, I don't think, right now that can use initiative switching. I think I always feel so dumb when I say this, so I don't even want to say it, but there's a chance Krookodile might get U-turn. I haven't used it that much, but I don't think it does. But we'll see. If it does, that's nice. If it doesn't, Vikavolt currently is our only way to U-turn out. So I don't know. It brings a lot to the table. It's fairly defensive actually as well. It does a good job of walling defensively, I should say. Not that it's super defensive, but it can take a lot of hits on the special side due to its nice special defense and decent HP. So this is a nice little lower tier pick. It's not the fast electric type that I prefer to have, but it's a very, very strong electric type and something that people should be keeping in the back of their minds at all time. It's going to make walling Pokemon like Celesteela, Arcanine, and Krookodile a lot harder when this Vikavolt can come in and start wreaking damage on the opponent. So next up, I decided that we really needed a grass type. I got sniped a couple of different times, but ended up with Krookodile. So the reason I like Krookodile is because it takes the pressure to get rocks up off of my Krookodile, as seeing as Krookodile was my only rock setter at this point. But now we have Krookodile who gets rocks, and I believe a form of spikes. Not entirely certain on that, but I think it is definitely a possibility. It's got a nice ability in Storm Drain, meaning that mons like Arcanine and Krookodile are going to have a little bit more freedom to do what they can when I'm able to threaten to switch with the Krookodile, like if they try to catch a prediction and I stay in. It's got a lot of defensive capability for my team, and actually helps me wall Tapu Koko a little bit, because Tapu Koko as of right now is kind of tearing through my team at will. So I did notice that I have to play a Tapu Koko a couple times this season, so I decided picking up Krookodile would be a great move. Also, it's not a mon I have a ton of experience with, but I have it on good authority that it can do a lot against opponents, and it's a mon that I constantly see picked up in drafts, so, you know, hopefully it can pan out for us. So next up at pick 9 is our final pick, and we have our Fire, Water, Grass, we have our Mega, we have our Fairy, well, sorry, we don't have our Fairy, Dragon, Steel, so I'm looking at Fairies right now. And pretty much the only thing, I can either take a tier 4 or a tier 3 fairy and take 1 or 2 Z users, which I'm sure you can see I didn't do that. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, tier 3 or tier 2 and take 2 Z users, yeah, 2 or 1 Z users, or take a tier 4 and have 3 Z users. So I decided to take a tier 4 fairy and ended up with Togetic. So again, another ground resist. I think it's fairy flying. It may not be flying yet, but I think it is. But another important thing is it's a good Eviolite user. I always like having an Eviolite user on my teams for some reason. It's just nice to depend on a very bulky Eviolite mon. And Togetic has a lot of utility to it. I think it gets Defog. Sorry guys, some of these picks I'm a little unfamiliar with, but I know for a fact it gets Roost, it gets T-Wave, it gets all sorts of crazy moves like that. It is a fantastic support Pokemon. It gets Wish, giving my team a little bit of a Cleric option, which is very, very nice. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of this pickup. It's not the powerhouse fairy that I would recommend most people pick up in the draft league format. But for my team and for the points that I ended up spending, I think I got a good bargain there. It is very, very bulky with Eviolite, and in some situations can be better than Togekiss. I think Togekiss is an all-around better mon just because of its offensive capabilities, but defensively Togetic is pretty up there. So this is my team overall. I'm really, really excited to be using it. I think that it's not as well-rounded as some of the other teams. Like, I wish I had a little bit better hazard control than I do. It's going to be pretty easy for people to hazard stack on me, especially without a poison type to absorb things like toxic spikes. I am not huge on the fact that my fastest Pokemon is Mega Gallade. I know there's been some people that I've talked post-draft with who have all kind of agreed that Mega Gallade being my fastest mon is really unfortunate. It leaves me susceptible to Scarfers and things like that. But I'm banking on my good defensive options being able to pivot into Scarfers, force them out, possibly take the hit, disrupt, and outplay, basically. Because that's when it comes down to it, that's what you have to do. Every team is going to have weaknesses. It's just how you outplay them. So it's good to know your weaknesses ahead of time, I guess. There's some mons on this team I'm definitely really excited to use. As I said, I've always wanted to use Krookodile in format, and I'm very excited about Goodra. But I'm also very excited to try out Krookodile and Togetic. I think finding good tier 4s and tier 5s that I'm comfortable with is something that I'm really trying to do, because I find myself comfortable with a lot of tier 1s, tier 2s, and tier 3s just by playing OU and a little bit of UU. But some of these mons lower down in the tiers I'm very, very unfamiliar with, and it helps a lot to have them on my team and to prep with them and to use them, so that hopefully in the seasons to come I'll be a little bit more knowledgeable. So hopefully y'all enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the team in the comment section. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, you know, all the bullshit, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.